Okay, shall we get started? I thought probably what the best thing to do is for me to run through the PowerPoint, which might answer any questions that you have. And then if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to unmute at the end and then ask your questions. And then hopefully I'll be able to answer them. Probably one of the big questions at the moment is, are we still going ahead? And because we do have quite a few people off with COVID at the moment, staff and children. We just want to reassure you that we're doing absolutely everything we can to keep the trip going. The last thing we absolutely want to do is cancel. We've got everybody who could potentially go on the trip coming with packed lunches on Monday and Tuesday. So hopefully we will keep going, but obviously there might come a point if we ever feel that we can't proceed from a safety point of view, then that would, force our hand a little bit and we would have to cancel. But we are making, we are doing absolutely everything that we can to make sure that we all have a lovely day and we don't disappoint our lovely children, because obviously it will be the first trip that they've been on and they're very, very excited. So we don't want to do that. So you obviously know this already. So Owls and Hedgehogs on the 28th on Monday, and Dragonflies and Otters are going on the 29th. And just, let's go. So the purpose of the visit, sorry, I've gone past that slide. The purpose of the visit is to recognise the physical features of the castle and to learn what castle life might have been like, and to ask questions about the past and find out the answers. The children have a guided tour of the castle and they have opportunities to ask lots of questions. And it's, it's lovely to hear them asking their questions and being very, very excited about being out and being in a real castle. And they also have the opportunity to take part in a drama workshop, and they act out a little story called The Swan Princess. And we allocate parts so the children do know the part they're going to play beforehand if they want to participate. And there's the opportunity to get dressed as well. You can get dressed up to retell the story. It's a lovely story, and it reinforces the work we've been doing in our English lessons on fairy tales. So the timings for the day: children arrive normally at 8:45 and go to the toilets. And then we're asking our volunteers to wait by the main entrance hall to the school. And then the plan is for the children to board the coach at 9 AM and arrive at Leeds Castle at 10 AM. So in the morning, if you could drop your child off as normal and then collect your information pack from the class teacher. There's quite a lot of information in there, so we would ask you if you could familiarise yourself with it, and especially the risk assessment. There is quite a detailed risk assessment in there. There is also some sensitive information relating to children, so we would ask that you make sure that you please hand those in at the end of the day. If any child in the group that you're supporting has a medical condition, your class teacher, the class teacher leading the group, will make sure that you are aware of that and you've got all the information. So once you've dropped your child off, go back to the school, to the main entrance. If it's raining, we'll let you in and shelter in the main entrance in the reception area. If you need the loo at that point, we're going to have to ask you to sign in so that you can use the toilet, sorry. So once the class teachers have taken the register and all the children have been to the toilet, we'll bring them out ready to board the coach at 9 AM. The steps to the coach are quite big, so we're going to ask an adult to stand at the foot of the coach and just make sure that the children can actually, sorry, I've got somebody else joining. Just make sure that the children can make that big step without kind of falling backwards. So somebody will be allocated that job just to make sure that that doesn't happen. We do expect the children to wait patiently and quietly to board the coach. Obviously, it's their first trip, so they are going to be very, very excited. But if you could just encourage them at that point to use sort of their quiet voices, because they will want to talk and they'll be very, very excited. We're going to make sure that adults are seated and spaced evenly throughout the coach, and parents will be seated with their children if possible. We will take sick buckets and things like that. So if the child feels poorly, please let one of the members of staff know, and they'll be able to hand out sick buckets and newspapers. We're never quite sure where the newspaper trick works, but actually a child sitting on a newspaper actually seems to focus their mind. If you say it's a magic newspaper and you're not going to feel sick anymore, I think it's to do with the removing some of the vibration, but it does seem to work. So we have got newspapers as well and sick buckets. So when we get to Leeds Castle, obviously the children are going to be very, very excited, but we are going to ask them to remain in their seats on the coach, because we might have to wait a few minutes at that point. So you might like to distract the children at that point with a quick game of I Spy or something like that. So the coach will drive us through the grounds right up to the castle, and then we'll then be met by our guides. So we are guided the whole time, and we'll get off the coach. So at this point, some of the children might need to visit the toilets again. So that will be our first port of call. So yes, so that's where the coach will drop us at the red point, and then there'll be a little bit of a walk to the yellow point, which is where the education centre is, and the purple circle is actually where we'll be having lunch. So just moving on. So at that point, we will separate into 2 class groups. So on Monday, Hedgehogs will start with a tour of the castle and then go to the education centre, and Owls will do the reverse. And as you can see, Otters will start with the castle, Dragonflies will go to the education centre, and they'll swap. So all the children will have a tour of the castle and go to the workshop for the Swan Princess activity. Can't move this on at the moment. So timings for the day. So after the first activity, we'll meet for lunch. Hopefully it won't be raining, near the cafe and the play area. Children will need to wash their hands before eating, and there is an outside hand washing station that we can use, and there are toilets nearby. There's also a water fountain in the Maze Cafe building, and a tap in the education centre if we need to fill water bottles. So hopefully it'll be a lovely day just like today, and we can sit outside on picnic benches in the grassy area. However, if it is raining, there is an opportunity to use the space in the education centre. There will be lots of adults, because both classes will be together during lunchtime, and we will have lots of adults with us. So if adults need to go to the loo at that point, if you could just let somebody know, just so that we know that somebody is keeping an eye on the group that you are with, that would be great. So after lunch, if there's time, we're going to walk the children past the folklore onto the workshop or the tour. And if you could just remind the children to move past the birds very quietly. This might or might not happen. It just depends on our timing. So we're not going to say too much to the children about this, just in case it doesn't happen due to being short on time or bad weather. So the workshop, children love the workshop. And there are toilets here at this point in the education centre. So again, we might need to stop off before we actually start the workshop or the afternoon activity. Class teachers or learning assistants will accompany children into the toilets. Volunteers, please remind the children in your group to wait outside the toilets patiently and quietly. So the castle tour, as the children are touring around the castle, this is their opportunity to ask and guide questions about the castle. But there will be obviously members of the public there. So we have been talking to the children about how they represent Holmesdale School and the high behavioural expectations that we have for them on this visit. And we'd like you to help us to support the children understand that their behaviour around the castle, what it should look like, and please don't be afraid to remind them to use quiet classroom voices or to just ask them to move out of the way so that the paying members of the public can also enjoy the castle as well. We're going to try and ensure that class teachers and learning assistants are at the front and the rear of the group, and that the adults who are accompanying us are spaced out evenly amongst the class. And I think it's a day just to keep counting. So please just keep counting the children in your group and make sure that you've got everybody, please. And as soon as you notice that anybody is actually missing, then if they do go missing, please let a member of staff know as soon as you can. So, and all of these risks and hazards will actually be in detail again on the risk assessment that we're asking you to read, and we'll give you a copy of them on the day. So on the coach, we've got to make sure that the children keep their seatbelts on at all times. And in the unlikely event of a breakdown, we have to stay on the coach with the seatbelts on, unless there is a risk of fire, in which case we would find somewhere safe for the children to wait, as far away from the roadside as possible. And at Leeds Castle, we've got to be aware of steep staircases, remind the children to hold on to the rails and look where they're walking. There's wildfowl roaming around, so we're going to ask the children, stay away from the wildfowl. There is some scaffolding around the castle, so we've got to check the area carefully before walking under or around or near it. And any child who's lost, we've just got to keep counting and counting and counting. And if we notice anybody is missing, like I said, we've got to let the teachers know. There will be traffic also around the castle, like maybe other coaches, and there's also a little tray, and there is also a moat. So we've got to keep children away from the moat and remind them to keep with their group at that point as we're walking past it. There's also some uneven cobblestone walkways, so we've got to continue to remind the children to have walking feet and look where they're walking. And there's also at some points a steep drop on all sides of the walls surrounding the castle, so we do have to keep the children away from that as well. Again, the strangers are members of the public, and sometimes they do like to come and find out what's happening and talk to the children, but we've got to make sure that we don't leave the children unaccompanied. And if there are any concerns, please let class teacher know or a member of Leeds Castle staff, particularly if you're concerned about a member of the public and feel that they're posing a risk to the children or the adults. And if any of the children get injured, please let the class teacher or first aider know. On the risk assessment, it will actually detail each member of staff who's first aid trained. So you will know within your class group who the first aiders are. And we will have first aid with us. So before we board the coach at the end of the day, we'll take the children to the toilets again. The plan is to board the coach about 1:55 and leave about 2, and hopefully traffic permitting return to school about 3 p.m. At that point, we are going to ask you to return your information pack to the class teacher, because obviously it's got sensitive information in it. We will take all the children back into school. So please walk through the playground gates to collect your child from their classroom gate as usual. So we'll bring them in the main entrance, and if you can walk round at the end of the day. The only other thing to say is a huge thank you. we obviously wouldn't be able to take the children on the visits if we didn't have parental helpers. So it's a huge thank you from the Year 1 team and the children, who will be very, very excited because obviously it's their first trip. So thank you very much.